accidentally hit pause or stop. You can't pause these, but I accidentally hit stop on the video that I did before, so I'm going to do this for a third time because I wasn't finished. Let's start over. Let's see if I can stay focused this time. We're going to talk about what is a woman, okay? Because conservatives seem to like to think, oh, it's so simple. You have a vagina. You're a woman. Like, I'll put this as a disclaimer from the beginning. I have some gripes with leftists about things that we use, but here's the problem. Conservatives, and even liberals for that matter, but we're mostly talking about conservatives who want to violate people's human rights, and, you know, are sliding further and further into fascism and are bringing the liberals in with it because they're a bunch of fucking pieces of shit. Focus. Anyways, what is a woman? Let's approach this from a language standpoint. The definition of woman means adult human female. That's one part of the definition, even the modern definition. Okay, I want to emphasize that. That is one small piece or one way that the word can be used, because we need to explore all the context in which this word needs to be used. And granted, right-wing people and leftists are guilty of this, but for different reasons. And that is very important, because right-wing people use this to their advantage to discriminate against people, and left-wing people sometimes avoid things that are inconvenient. But ultimately, if we're going to talk amongst ourselves as leftists, it's not going to violate people's rules. It eventually just boils down to arguing over semantics. But yeah, here we go. A woman comes from the word woman. Okay, in modern context, it means wife, human being. Okay, because the word man has two parts to the definition. To the modern definition, like currently, it means an adult male human being. That's important. The words that they use are important. This is not talking about gender. This is talking about sex. And this is talking about being an adult. So we're going to get into that. An adult male human being. 2, this is part of the same definition. A human being of either sex. A person. Just a person. Anybody, right? A person. That's what a male, that's what a human, there I go again. That's what a man is. And that's like all the way up until the 1900s, it's falling out of definition, or it's falling out of use in that context. And that's something to think about, is that the way societies adjust their words and usages talks a lot about how these words shift. So conservatives like to run with this kind of shit as if that is the only thing that the words mean. And the fact that these words have meant something along the way, something different than that would fit their fucking narrative. Like, oh, a woman is simple. It's an adult human female. Yeah, here we go. Woman, an adult female human being or person. So let's get into the etymological definition, right? I have this in here somewhere. Woman, wife plus man. It means wife man. Wife, human being. Okay? From Old English, which wife was a neuter term in Old English. Okay? It meant female or spouse. Not female spouse, but female or spouse. Okay? Again, female, it didn't mean woman in our context. Well, that word didn't even exist then, okay, in Old English. Now, Middle English, woman meant mistress of a household. See, that's very important to think about, because this is giving homage to the underlying context in how these words are used currently. Okay, the mistress of a household, or in modern terms, housewife. That's interesting, because it didn't mean all adult human females. It meant a specific kind of adult human female. And what was considered adult back then was like 13, something like that. And we know now that adult means fully grown human being. And I'm going to get into that, but I'm getting ahead of myself. By 1883, it meant passive partner. That's what woman meant. Or passive partner human being. Whoa, man. Wife man evolved into wife man, and then like there was a vowel shift and the F got dropped into whoa man. Okay? Wife, human being. So we have human beings, all of them, and then there was a wife human being, which is a subcategory of human beings because it was the submissive partner in the relationship, which happened to be females, or an adult female who could produce children, right? Because this is kind of pointing towards a patriarchal society, right? Anyways, what are we going to go into? So woman, wife. So wife, let's go to wife. Where the fuck is wife? I'm going to try to make this quick. It's tough. It's tough shit, man. Oh, yeah, wife is just a neuter term. We already did that. So let's go into adult. Let's go into female. Okay? Male. Here we go. Pertaining to the sex, that's something to think about, that begets young. Female. Human being of the sex which brings forth young. And it's talking about sex. What does sex mean? Again, late 14th century. Male or female considered collectively. Word of uncertain origin. Interesting. 1520s. Quality or character of being either male or female. 19th century. The anatomical distinction between male and female as evidenced by physical characteristics of their genital organs and the part taken by each in reproduction. Again, it's part. The part in reproduction. It's specifically talking about a specific function of human beings. Not about what they wear, not about how they paint their fucking face, not about how they cut their hair, not about their roles in society, but their specific role, not even biology, it's a specific part of biology. Their role in reproduction. Yeah. I don't know where to go from here. Let's go to adult. A person who is fully grown or developed. So we know now that a human being is about fully developed around 25 years old. You know, we know that now. There's other parts of being a human being that are fully developed, like reproductive, going through puberty. But the brain, which makes everything work, okay, is not fully developed until 25 years old. They're at, okay? At least that's what modern science is saying. And it's like, well, if the brain makes everything work, then like, I don't know. Yeah, 25. What is sex? Let's go to sex versus gender. Sexual sex. So sexual activity, right? The actual act of doing sexual things. Specifically intercourse. Sexual intercourse is really the way to put that, because intercourse can mean having a conversation or doing things together. Either of the two main It's very specific. Either of the two main categories of male or female, into which humans are divided on the basis of their reproductive functions. Okay? It's not about what their fucking roles are in society, where they need to go to the bathroom, how they need to fucking dress. Oh God, conservatives are so fucking stupid, or just willfully ignorant, or just bigoted pieces of shit. But yeah, it's based on their reproductive functions. Two main categories. There are other, maybe not categories, but things that mean, like, if we're going to get into like biology, chromosomal makeup. I'm not a biologist, but God, I've listened to lectures from biologists, like 2 hours long, from a doctorate level biologist saying, saying that there's a binary is just plain fucking wrong. Let's get into that. The difference between a binary and a bimodal distribution. A binary relating to composed of or involving two things. Now, it is somewhat of a binary to think about what humans need to reproduce. That is two different kinds of gametes. But that is one small portion of what it means to be a human. Okay, a bimodal distribution is having two distinct clusters of data. Okay, and so humans, when it comes to sex, when it comes to our chromosomal makeups, when it comes to our biology, we're a bimodal distribution. And again, I'm not a biologist, but I've listened to lectures and very educated people talk about these things. And I personally use the word bimodal distribution because if we're talking about reproduction, then sure, we need spermatozoides in Spanish, and I can't remember it, but sperm for short, right? Which is one gamete, and then we need an egg, an ova, in order to produce the next generation. So bimodal distribution is that there's like two peaks, and then generally speaking, in order, but if we're going to pull that information out and say these people are the ones that need to reproduce. Now here's the funny thing. Again, I'm not going to get too much into biology, but just because you have sperm or ova, let's say you're fertile. We're going to assume that off the bat. Okay, you have sperm or ova and you are fertile. You are able to reproduce as long as you get with somebody else who is fertile, who has the other gamete. Okay, you may not have XX and XY. In fact, we don't know because we're not testing every single human being who is fertile and able to reproduce. But we do know that, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, somebody with one X chromosome can reproduce. And somebody with XY chromosomes actually can reproduce too, can have ova. Okay? Somebody with XXY can actually have ova. Somebody with triple X, I don't know, no pun intended. But again, I'm not a biologist, but again, I have listened to lectures about these people talk about it. Okay? And when somebody says there are only two sexes or there are only two genders, which I haven't gotten into gender yet, they're just wrong. If they mean there's only two reproductive functions within humans, there's not a third category that can somehow intermingle or other way, or you can get two pairs of those particular three. No, there's ova and there's sperm. Okay. Anyways, what is gender? Because we talked about sex. Etymological definition. Actually, let's get into the modern definition, then I can get into the etymological definition. I swear I have it somewhere. Gametes. Oh, what a gamete. I've been talking about gametes. So a gamete is a mature haploid single set of unpaired chromosomes. Unpaired. They're just chromosomes coming together to create another human being. germ cell microorganism. So it's a microorganism, a portion of an organism. So it's a portion of an organism. Yeah, that makes sense. Unless you're conservative, then you can't seem to fucking wrap your head around this shit. Because, again, it's just about sex, not about like how society makes people function within it. Those are different things. They can be related, but they're fucking different. Gender. Why didn't I write down? I did write down. Oh, here we go. Oxford definition of gender. Male or female, sex, especially when considered with reference to social and cultural differences. This is important. Okay. The word sex has nothing to do with social and cultural definitions or differences. None of the fucking definitions say that when it comes to sex. Gender can sometimes reference sex, but it means how those sexes function within a society. And society is made by people. When considered, sex, especially when considered with reference to social and cultural differences, rather than biological ones. It even fucking tells you that. And this is the Oxford definition. I'm going to say this one more time for you fucking conservatives in the back. Male or female sex, especially when considered with reference to social and cultural differences, rather than biological ones, or one of a range, not like one of the two. It says one of the range of other identities that do not correspond to established ideas of male or female. And it has to do with grammar too. Each of the classes, masculine, feminine, common, neuter, of nouns and pronouns. So all you fucking conservatives who can't figure out, like, I don't know what pronouns are. Like, God, just for people who claim to be so smart, this is simple. Like, you have the internet at the grasp of your hands. This is the Oxford definition. I stopped reading. Nouns and pronouns distinguished by the different implications that they have and require in words syntactically associated with them. Grammatical gender is only very loosely related with distinctions of sex, meaning somebody's pronouns is very loosely related to what they fucking have in their goddamn fucking pants or inside of their inner workings. Like, it's right there built into our fucking language, and you can't, and this is the modern definition. I'm not even to the etymological definition yet, because etymology tells us how the modern definition functions. Etymology, from Etymology Online. That's where I get a lot of my etymology from. Kind, sort, and gender, by the way. Kind, sort, class, a class or kind of person, things sharing certain traits. By the 20th century, came to be the usual word in English for sex of a human being, in which use was at first regarded as colloquial or humorous. So by the 20th century, around that time period, it was still used as a colloquial sense. And that's perfect. So 1900s, the word started to evolve to overlap with the word sex because it was a colloquial. And if you don't know what colloquial means, it's I don't even want to explain it to you, but it's just like it's like a regional or a specific version of that. Like it used to be that when I was a kid, y'all was a Southern thing and it wasn't even in the dictionary. Now it's in the dictionary because it's so many people use it. That's how colloquial things become part of the over vernacular because it starts spreading beyond that local usage of it. So yeah, I don't know. I don't want to beat a dead horse. I think I went over female, male, gender, adult. Yeah, I said that. Binary. So let's kind of get into the woman thing here again. Woman means wife, man, and it at some point it meant the mistress of the house, essentially, right? Like it's even built into the etymological definition. So mistress, it means, it comes from French, but it means master. But it was a masteress, right? It's like a French variation of female master. So I'll just read the definitions of mistress, miss, and Mrs., and then Mr., and then I'll get into husband because I haven't read. I'll do husband first. Male head of the household. That's it. And that's Old English. Anyways, that's kind of what it means now. Mistress, circa 1300s. Female teacher, governess, supervisor, novices in a convent. I don't know what that means. Of novices. Supervisor of novices in a convent. Lover or honeykeeper. So yeah, like some dude's side chick, basically. Master, from Latin magister. Chief, head, director, or teacher. So anybody who kind of has a title was a mistress or a mister, a master. Okay. By early 15th century, a woman who employs others or has authority over a household and servants. Mid 15th century, woman who has mastered an art or branch of study, right? Some sort of title. Early 15th century, going back, kept woman of a married man. Like I said, some dude's side chick, but a married man specifically. Kept is kind of interesting. Miss, etymologically, is a shortened form of mistress. Okay, it means unmarried girl from about 10 to 17. So at one point in human history, 10 to 17 was an adult female, but we know now because of science that a human being isn't fully developed until 25. So these people are effectively functioning with their more primitive parts of their brain, okay? Like focused on reproduction because you had to do it then because you were fucking maybe dying by 30, 40, 50. 60 if you were lucky, right? Okay, Mrs. MRS is abbreviation of mistress. So Mrs. is a shortened form of mistress, and a Mrs. is an abbreviation of mistress, meaning married woman, which is redundant because woman means wife, man, and a married wife, and wife means married. It's so fucking weird. Pronunciation, Mrs. was MISSIS, but that's just the pronunciation. They're just saying MRS was miss. But the pronunciation Mrs. was considered vulgar, at least into the 18th century. Meant one's wife. By 1920s is when it started to mean one's wife. So like, again, people, maybe not now because it's 2024, but yeah, Mr. is just an abbreviation of master. That's all it is. So I think I went over all my kind of definitions here: sex, gender, male, adult, woman, Look these words up if you want, okay, etymological online or just simple Google definition. And don't just read the first one, read all of them, because even the modern definitions have more than one usage of it. So what do we get out of this? Okay, simply the word woman, okay, this is what I was getting at, is woman, depending on what context it's used in. See, this is why conservatives have a point, but they only take a small fraction of that and run with it, because the rest of it, they just completely throw it out the window because it doesn't fit their narrative. But here's the problem with that, is that the word, like, over history doesn't mean that. So history is not supporting them. In fact, history is supporting left, not right-wing ideology. So a woman, to recap, is a wife human, and a wife meant the mistress of a house, which the mistress of a house was the adult human female submissive partner of the husband or the male or the master of the house. Not just anyone who could produce children. Again, modern definition of adult is somebody like 25, a fully developed human being. Okay, but at one point, 10 to 17, especially females, was an adult. Why? Because you had to mature quickly, and then learn to work and provide for your family. But we know now that you're not fully developed until you're 25. Okay. So man, by default, meant all human beings. And then because there was adult human female master of the house, okay, I don't know how many times I can point this out. If that woman couldn't produce children, she wasn't a wife anymore. In patriarchal society, the man was allowed to divorce him because she couldn't give him children. So she was no longer considered a woman or a wife human being. She was no longer the mistress or the master, the female master of the house, right? Just because, one, you could produce children doesn't mean you were a woman. And two, not all females who can't produce children are women, because they don't fit this fucking definition of it. And now, for some reason, they want to cherry pick parts of history and parts of the way that it has evolved into certain cultures. Again, they're coming from a point where they want the word to mean this thing. But that's not how this stuff functions. Now, a quick thing on biology. We have two gametes to produce the next generation. But that, again, just because you have sperm doesn't mean you only have XY. Just because you have XX or XY doesn't mean you can't, even males produce estrogen, right? It's just in less form. And even females or XX produce, maybe I'm wrong on that. But from what I understand, and see, I'm not a biologist, but again, I've listened to hours. I think it was a 2-3 hour long lecture by this. I wish I could find it, link it in the thing. If I find it, I'll link it in the channel. But I'll link a couple videos later on after I post this video about if you want to listen to people talk about this kinds of things. Sex and gender are not the same thing. Okay, and even even sex isn't a single category. I remember one thing I wanted to address. This is the last thing, and I'll cut this video off. One, okay, there's three different break-offs of what sex is. One, you have your primary sexual characteristics, you have your secondary sexual characteristics, and you have your gametes. Okay. Primary sexual characteristics are what you're born with, right? And it sometimes, from what I understand, you can be born with both. You can be born with ambiguous. Sometimes doctors can't even tell if it's a boy or if it has a penis or a vagina. If the baby, and you fuck people's lives over because they give them surgeries before they can even decide what they want to fucking do with their life and their own body. your secondary sexual characteristics develop as you get older, which have correlation, from what I understand, with your chromosomal makeup, because you can look like you're going to develop in one way, but then develop in like different ways as you get older, as you mature. And then chromosomes, oh Jesus, that's a whole fucking can of worms that I don't even yeah, okay, we have XX and XY, but not all humans are XX and XY. Even if you produce sperm or ova, you may or may not have only XX or XY. So that's the simple rundown. So if you still disagree with this stuff, I guess I don't fucking care. Yeah. Peace be with you. If you have any questions, let me know. And I'm always willing to have conversations.